May 21st, 2026, high atop a now sunny Jacksonville, Florida. It was raining earlier. Now it's sunny again. So, Florida here, or summer here in Florida, that's what you're going to get here. Temperatures near 90, I think, near 100 even, afternoon storms. Although, having on good authority that it may not be as stormy this weekend as we originally thought. So, the drought continues. Hopefully, I do have it on good authority that it will change at some point. Just a matter of when. Housekeeping notes here. Again, we will have no live shows next week. We will have, I think, we'll try to get a pre-recorded show out for you guys next week. It'll be sort of like, I think what we're going to do, instead of doing a traditional extra pod, we'll just do the extra pod on YouTube and on Spotify next week. And that sounds pretty good. Yeah. So we'll do the extra pod, kind of like an evergreen type show next week. Will be pre-recorded, so it'll premiere either Tuesday or Thursday, or heck, even Wednesday. So we'll have that ready to go next week. We'll record it tomorrow. So it'll be sort of like an evergreen show. We'll still do like our typical, record rejection. We'll have some Q&A-ish stuff in there as well, layered in. So we'll go over that tomorrow. So we'll go over that when I record that tomorrow. We'll go over all the stuff, questions that have been asked. By the way, to your boy, featured on Josh Page's show on Tuesday, answering my question there. So we'll dive into that too tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll hear that next week in terms of the show. In terms of my thoughts on that on the show next week. We'll be recording it tomorrow, so but anyway, Ken. So no live show next week. We have a pre-recorded show next week. There will be. So of course I'll be on vacation up in North Carolina. So again, no show next week. So I'll be expecting a live show. It'll be pre-recorded. It'll be set to premiere. I'll make that clear tomorrow on the when I record tomorrow. And also, I think we should be back normal show after that. We'll have a little bit of a period where it'll be normal as usual. And then around 4th of July, we'll have to do the same routine we're doing next week. We'll just have a pre-recorded show in place. So probably a few more. I think that time got to be a little bit longer. But anyway, we'll cross the bridge when we get there. We'll get through this first vacation week and we'll get through that one. Still have some time. So again, be sure if you're new here, if maybe you saw us featured on Josh Page's show and you're like, hey, man, I want to subscribe to this guy's channel. What's he all about? You may have seen me on X Twitter. Be sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel. Helps us out. Helps me out. Maybe it doesn't really necessarily help you guys out, but it does help you guys become aware when we do live shows, right? 13 subscribers now. Now hopefully we'll get near 20 by the season starts. So be sure to hop over here. If you want college football, even more college football-esque content, go over here and we'll talk it out. We do this show typically live Thursdays and Tuesdays, of course. Next week will be pre-recorded, only one show. So again, YouTube channel, please make sure to follow over here. Also, be sure to follow us on X Twitter as usual, like we always say in every single show. And also the podcast feed. Be sure to head over there. You have a lot of fun over there. And by doing the extra pods when we do them, of course, next we'll be combining a normal show, and I'm not sure I'm doing with my hands here, but we're combining both shows next week. So, okay, I think that's it for the housekeeping notes. I think we can move on here to the actual show. Need some water real quick here. Of course, I went for a run earlier, and got to make sure you hydrate. Got some ice there, so even better. All right, let's get this graphic up here for you guys, the Big 12 coaching grades. And I think this is it for the coaching grades. Now, we'll eventually, when we get back, we'll start doing the coaching grades for the hires, these past hires. So that's when we will do the new coaching hires for each conference. So we'll just kind of move on with that. Just another thing coming down the pipe as well. So just so you guys are aware. Okay, all right, we'll get the graphic up here, and then we'll dive into our first topic, which is, again, Big 12 coaching grades. Again, these coaching grades are only for the coaches that have been at their school for a year or so plus, right? So none of the new guys on here. So Eric Morris will not be on here, okay? A few others will not be on here as well. So like Colin Klein, for example, Kansas State will not be on here. The new coach, I think it's, Renovic or something like that over at Iowa State. That's his name. The new coaching staff here at Iowa State will not be on this list because they're literally brand new. So Okay, with that out of the way here, we'll go ahead and get the graphic up for you guys so you can take a gander at that. No, I don't want to share my screen. I don't want that. Okay, head coaching grades here. All right, let's move over graphic here. You guys can see it a little bit better on your side. And actually, I'm going to check YouTube here on my the phone here. I don't know, would you call this the iJosh? Because my first name's Josh. Definitely not a Josh Pate reference. Totally is. Let's see how we're looking here on YouTube on this side here, because I have the other computer here and we're kind of doing different stuff here. So, okay, looks like graphics appearing on YouTube. All right. So, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, if you were a little bit confused here, so the BIG12 coaching grades, how this works here. Again, we are not doing any of the new staff, and well, any of the new teams that hired a new staff. So again, like Iowa State will not be on here, their coaching staff. Colin Klein will not be on here. Eric Morris at Oklahoma State will not be on here. These are only the current coaches that have been at their school for multiple years. Okay, so not doing this thing where it's like, oh, we're bringing in everyone because we have to. No, we're only doing the coaches that have been in their school the longest. So like 1 year plus. First up here, Joe McGuire, A+. Pretty simple. He's done a very good job there. Transfer portal, getting to the conference championship last year. Big 12 championship game appearance. I know there was a lot of pressure on him last year, and I was emphasizing it for a reason last year. And it was mainly because, I mean, there was so much, emphasis because of how he was recruiting and getting the transfers coming in. He was like the only team in the Big 12 that was doing that besides Colorado the past couple years. Just there was a lot of pressure on him last year to actually get to the conference championship and actually win it because of how wide open the Big 12 is. And, as Josh Pate calls it, he calls it America's College Football Conference. At least it was. Now it seems like Texas Tech has taken a stranglehold on the conference, I guess. But anyway, yeah, A+ here, pretty simple. You make the playoff, you haven't had a losing season. Yeah, sure, is there things to worry about with him? His tendency to be more conservative in his play calling, his style of coaching. Yeah, sure, you'll hear those complaints. And look, I don't necessarily disagree with those. Those are concerns to a certain extent, but it's not an end-all be-all. I could easily, bump him down to an A- or an A, but I think an A+ he deserves it. I mean, he just won the conference last year. I don't think there's any reason why you wouldn't have him below an A. Next up here, Deion Sanders. On this one, I know a lot of folks, like, the typical Schlee, not Schlees, that's not even a real name. The typical, defenders of Deion Sanders, just because people just say Deion means he's different in terms of his style of going on with this program, right? I'm not necessarily attaching this grade because of that. I'm just doing the full-on sample size of his time there, okay? Now, granted, I will give you this. Is he an upgrade over what they had previously? Yes, obviously. Not since 2016. They had a losing, or they did not have a winning season until a couple years ago, right? So I will give him credit for that. No, I can't give him credit for is the really weird coaching hires. You bring in Sean Lewis, and then you do some, I guess like backdoor coup. You get him out, and then you bring in Pat Shermer, who I'm not a fan of. To be honest with you, I think Sean Lewis is a competent head coach, not to mention a really good offensive coordinator and also offensive mind. So, yeah, I mean, the whole staff there just seems listless. Deion, I get it with the health issue thing. That is a part of this, but not really. I think he's done a good enough job there. I get it, the whole academic side of things, and there's other circumstances that are outside of his control that are preventing certain players and certain, at least a certain caliber player to leave, and not to mention it's the Big 12, right? They have been separated from the other two major conferences, the Big 10 and the SEC. So, I think going the route of the Danny Kanell C+ year, it makes sense. I don't think it's I don't think it's overboard in either direction, where it's going overly positive or overly negative, right? I'm not going to go the whole negative route. I know a lot of folks have a tendency to do that. Nor am I going to go the other direction, go positive. I think the Danny Kanell C+, I think it's appropriate here. He had one good season. The last two seasons, yes, the first year was a transitional, liminal year. Last year, so Deion Sanders C+ year, I don't think that's a bad. It's a middle ground. Okay, it's a compromise. Next up here, Kenny Dillingham, A+. Same thing with Joe McGuire. If you won the conference, you deserve an A+. at least if you get to the conference championship game, at least in my book, at least within the last couple of years, you deserve an A+. That could change. I know last year it wasn't, necessarily, sunshine and rainbows, but still, given how much they are trying to invest with Kenny Dillingham, you could have gone, by the way, in the coaching carousel last year to other schools. He stayed behind. He's an alumni there. So it's kind of a weird thing where, yes, other schools wanted him, and yes, he could easily leave, but because of his connection to the school and his willingness to stay there and actually build something there and, raise his family and whatnot there in Tempe, that's why he's still there. Not to mention his just upgrading the program from where it was under Herm Edwards, who was, look, I voiced my displeasure of him, not at least him in his NFL career. He's a good coach in the NFL. Those college career, I mean, some of the stories from whether it's Josh Pate and Bud Elliott over at 247 and Cover 3. It's that Arizona State before he got there was a shit detail, just putting it lightly. So A+ for Kenny Dillingham, just for the fact of getting that thing turned around as fast as he did within about, he got there, his first year was, injury riddled and depth there was, at least the amount of players they had and the talent there was not very good, but still doing that within 2 years, that's pretty impressive. Another one that a lot of folks forget is Lance Leipold next year at Kansas. He deserves an A. Given again, sort of like Kenny Dillingham, yes, I know that conference title was 2 years ago, but Lance Leipold, remember, like this team a couple years ago, or not even that, like a year and a half ago, was a team that was ranked in the top 25. And in fact, one year in 2023 or 2022, they were a top 25 team. So what he has done there, what I'm trying to say here, all this to say, Lance Leipold's a good freaking coach. And he, much like Kenny Dillingham, could have very easily left to go anywhere else. Could have gone to Wisconsin. If that job opened up last year, he could have gone to Michigan, but he just chose to stay. Now, and sort of taking a page out of Bud Elliott's sort of way of thinking, is it possible that Lance may have missed his opportunity to take a bigger job because he was so hot a couple years ago, but now it's sort of waned off? Now, grant you, yes, Kansas is a traditional basketball school kind of in Indiana. And, there's might be also a possibility that Lance has said maybe privately, hey, I could just stay here and, build something here and I go somewhere else. Or maybe kind of like Matt Campbell, he's just waiting for the right job. All of that's possible. But I do wonder, again, sort of like how Bud over at 247 and Cover 3 has brought it up, that maybe he has missed this opportunity to go somewhere else and get a bigger job, given he was so hot a couple years ago. That's just, I don't know. That's not like the reason why his grade's not even higher than it is right now. It's just a thought I had. But yeah, given he has done at Kansas, the grant you it's a very, I guess it's not a small sample size. It's big enough. I think it's fine. Could I've gone a little bit higher of an A+? Sure, but like I said on Tuesday, I don't want to start sounding like Oprah. I'm like, oh yeah, you get an A+. You gonna get an A+. No, we're not. This show's not Oprah. Obviously, that's not the title of the show, but that's not the way we do things here. So it's just a flat out A. Fine with me. Next up here, Arizona, Brent Brennan. Gotta be honest with you, this one's disappointing. D-. Now, again, I know this sounds very drastic here. Like D-, man, that seems kind of harsh. Well, his first year to get there, he'd go, 5-7, 4-8. There were rumors, and I think credible rumors that were suggesting he may have been a one and done. And I think last year, did they make it to a bowl game? I think they may have. I don't remember. Either way, it just wasn't really memorable to begin with. So, yeah, I think a D- here, unfortunately. I mean, look, he had Noah Fita and Terrion McMillan, who was with the Panthers now. He had done a couple years ago and they went 5-7. Like, that's just, like, come on, dude. Like, that is mind-bogglingly bad. So because of that and the fact that the program has gone worse, yes, I know there's other financial issues and things outside of his control there with the whole university in general, with the potential of them potentially going bankrupt. For those of you who don't know, go look it up. It's a serious problem. D- here is for on the field. Off the field, yeah, sure, you could give him like the Deion Sanders C+ here, but I don't know. Just because you had McMillan at wide receiver and you also have, I think you still have Fafita at quarterback. It's like, I don't know, man. Like Jeff Fish did so much there to get that place out of the gutter. Sort of like kind of ironic, similar to their rival of Arizona. After with the whole Kevin Selman thing with Arizona a couple years ago, they bring in Jeff Fish. Sort of like Kenny Dillingham took a year to get adjusted, and then the Guess we lost connection here for the internet. Let me move the graphic back. Hopefully, you guys can still see me on YouTube. I think it's still fine. That must be a restream issue. But either way, what was I saying? Yeah, with Brent Brennan. Yeah, before him with Jeff Fish. Yeah, that was very, very successful. They won. They people forget they won 10 games, and Jeff Fish's final full year there, right? So you have to kind of look at it for that lens. It's like, yeah, his successor's not doing too well. So I think a D- there, in my opinion, is appropriate. And I'm looking on my phone here on YouTube, it's behind, so we're good. So I don't know what the heck just happened with the connection there. It must be a restream issue. And my internet's fine here. There's not even a thunderstorm here. So I don't know. Must be the internet doing internet things, I guess. All right, moving right along here. Dave Aranda at Baylor, C-. Kind of in the same situation with some of these other coaches where, yes, kind of going within the same line with like Joe McGuire and Kelly Dillingham. If you make or even win the conference title in the Big 12 within the last few years, at least in your tenure, yeah, you deserve some credibility. And I gave Dave Aranda some credibility, but not very much. To be honest with you, of that season in 2021, I believe, when they won the conference title, his second year, his first full year or normal year, this letter grade here would be probably around an F. He has not done a good job there. Grant you, yes, it is Baylor, and they're also going through their own period of, maybe not like Arizona, but just an issue of transition within the athletic department. And I will echo what Josh Pate said on Tuesday. Dave Rana got lucky just not by getting fired because his boss, the other athletic director that was there this time last year, was out the door. So because of that, they did not make a change at head coach. And also, I think it was, again, because he won the conference title a couple years ago, sort of, okay, Dave, we'll give you another chance to get this fixed. We gave you another chance a couple years ago. You fixed it. Can you do it again? I don't know. We'll eventually do. I guess we'll talk about them more as we get towards the season. Of course, they do play Auburn in week 1 in Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. I believe it's called that or something else, the athletic kickoff or whatever. Same thing. It really matters. But anyway, Dave Randa, C-. Look, again, I would love this letter grade to be a lot higher, but because of the last few years and the fact that he, for all intents and purposes, should have been fired last year, probably. At least, probably, if you're a athletic director, you would have probably fired him. But again, because of the turmoil within the department, they decided not to and just gave him another chance. I don't know if that means anything for this year. If you're a Baylor fan or just someone who wants to see Dave Randa succeed, you're hoping for them to improve this year. Now, look, they got DJ Lagway in the portal. That's all I'm going to say. Next up here, Kalani Sitake, A+. Pretty simple here. Again, they make the conference title last year. Yes, they lost to Texas Tech twice. But, I have to give him his flowers, man. Look, when his first year being there, after he took over for Bronco Mendenhall, I was kind of concerned. I mean, that first year, they went 4-8. It was just they were not a very good team. I remember that game against LSU in New Orleans, that neutral site game. Oh man, that was atrocious to watch. That was bad football. They've come a long way. I mean, they've had Zach Wilson. They have right now Barrett Bachmeier. They've had a lot of success, especially in this decade, the 2020s. To where, yeah, an A+ here is appropriate. I mean, look, he much like Kenny Dillingham, he could have gone elsewhere. He could have taken the Penn State. He could have taken the Penn State job. He decided not to. I think that's a sign that BYU. Now, yes, part of the reason why you stayed is because he is a member of the Church of the Latter-day Saints and an LDC member. Obviously, they want to keep those guys around. Obviously, so yeah. I mean, that's signals, at least to me, on both sides, confidence in the coach, and then on Kalani's point of view, support and confidence in the athletic department. So A+ here for him. He's done outside that first year where it was really, really bad and it looked horrible. He has done a very good job of regrouping and really making him one of the top coaches in the country. I'll just be honest with you. Next up here, Willie Fritz. Yeah, that same the same Willie Fritz who was at Tulane for all those years. If those of you have forgotten, he is at Houston now. Once upon a time, almost took the Georgia Tech job, but Georgia Tech told him no. If you don't know that story, then look it up. That's a real thing. I do remember vividly Josh Pate getting really, I wouldn't say mad, but very confused by why they didn't hire him. But obviously, it's worked out with Brent Key. But anyway, that was a couple years ago. But he's at Houston now. They improved over the last couple of years, sort of kind of the similar path as, Lance Leipold, Kenny Dillingham, also sort of like Kalani Sasaki. Well, they are building up. They have improved every single year they've been there, and Willie's no different. They have a huge year next year. They have the 5-star quarterback coming in. He'll likely be the starter, even though they still have Connor Wegman. I think there is some emphasis to get the 5-star guy starting. His name is escaping me, but I know who he is. But Willie, just simple A here. Could go a little bit higher. Could go into an A-. I think an A here is a good compromise. A compromise. Yes, he's been there for only 2 years, so the sample size is small. But he is just a good football coach, and I think this year, sort of thinking the same way as other commentators, I think Houston could definitely be a solid number 2 going into next year. We'll eventually do our conference outlook as we get closer to the season. But yeah, Houston will definitely be a team I am interested in. I mean, heck, even in our post-spring top 25, they were like 19 or something like that. So yeah, I think very highly of the Houston Cougars. Next up here, we have 3 more, including Sonny Dykes. So yeah, 3 more. Sonny, I mean, A- here. Again, he made it to the conference title. He didn't win it. Remember, that's the big miss, like kind of like the Mandela effect here. Kansas State won that conference title in 2022, but TCU didn't make the playoff, and yes, they were the participant that year in the Big 12 championship game. But yeah, I mean, look, you make it to the conference title, you lose it, but you still made it. You made it all the way to the national title. Yes, you got destroyed. Splattering there in Los Angeles a couple years ago. But even with all that being said, I mean, I think an A- is fair here. This could have been an A+, but there has been some struggles there. The year after the national title was a losing record. And then last year, I think they did make it to a bowl game, but that you lose your quarterback from the past couple of years. He's at Indiana now. I think of Sonny, I think of TCU even in general, not just him being the coach there. Anyway. I guess with TCU in general, it's kind of a weird thing where it's like they are one of the, one of the more pillar-ish teams in the Big-12. They're at least one of the longer members there, although they were not like a founding member. But look, you go through the history, they have a lot of success. And I think with the current state of the program, yes, they made the national title in his first year, in Sonny Dykes' first year, but it just seems like every single year it's gotten kind of worse. I don't know. It just seems kind of stale, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. It's still good, but would I say TCU this year is a conference title contender? Probably not. But, I think at the moment an A- is fair. Maybe this time next year it's a little bit lower, but who knows? A lot can definitely change because, again, as we have mentioned, this is still, to a certain extent, America's College Football Conference. Then the last 2 here, kind of throwback names, it seems like, but no, there are at these schools currently. Scott Frost, UCF. Again, we're only looking at his time currently, not going back to the American, or I think it was both Conference USA and American. Anyway, now when UCF was in the G5, this is currently now with the last year. It's only his first year there. Same with Richard. I think a C+. Now, yes, this does carry some weight with him being at the school before, but really and truly, C+ here, going the whole Denny Cannell route. I think it's fair. We'll see what happens in the next few years. I think eventually, given, we mentioned this last year when he was hired, Scott Frost, his experience at Nebraska and having learned a lot of different things about him, at least him as a coach, and still, he is relatively young, so he is still learning within, or at least he's still growing within his coaching career. It'll be interesting to see within the next few years, will this get better? Will this grade get a little bit higher? Again, kind of taking into account his previous tenure of the school as helping him a little bit here, but not much. So yeah, C+ there for Scott Frost. And finally, Rich Rod, similar thing with Scott. His grade here, sort of quasi being supported by his previous tenure at the school, but albeit it's very little being implemented here. But I still give Rich Rod benefit of the doubt here. I think a B+ is probably fair. Could have gone to C+ route, maybe. But I do think that program there will get better. I think there is at least a future there to have West Virginia be, I don't know, like near Texas Tech's level of spending and how they use the portal, but they could certainly be up there with a Arizona State, potentially Houston maybe, or BYU. So who knows? There could be a real opportunity there for a real chance for them to be at that level. It's not likely. I don't think it's very likely, but we have seen stranger things in this conference, not the TV show, but we have seen a lot of things in this conference before, so it's not impossible. Okay, coaching grades to the Big 12, 2026 edition. We'll do this again next year, more than likely. I think a lot of you guys I think most of you guys do like this when we do this, so we'll continue doing it. Okay, I think, let's see, what's on next here on the agenda here? Okay, we just did that. All right, Ed Orgeron, yeah. So let me get some water real quick, and we'll talk about good old Coach O back on the Bayou. Once again, how about that? Like, Back to the Future type stuff here. But move the microphone out of the way here on Spotify. So yeah, if you guys missed the news, Ed Orgeron back at LSU, back in the Bayou, back at his, I'm honestly alma mater, but he didn't play there. I didn't realize that until doing research last night. Totally forgot, but yeah, he's back at LSU. Not as the head coach. Lane Kiffin's still the coach, as far as I'm concerned. I have Twitter pulled up here, X on my computer. So far, so good. I think Lane Kiffin's still the coach there, but no, he is joining the staff as a defensive assistant role, I believe. I think that's what way they're describing it. So kind of similar to his role with, ironically, Lane Kiffin at USC. And of course, for those of you who don't remember, Ed Orgeron replaced Lane Kiffin when he was fired in the middle of the 2013 season. He was the interim coach, and they beat Stanford, I believe, that year when they were sort of at their height of power, if you will, under David Shaw after Harbaugh left for the NFL. So he is back at LSU. After, of course, he's yes, this is the same Ed Orgeron who won the national title with LSU, and mainly led by Joe Burrow, not because of him, but so I wanted to bring this up a little bit, and I thought about this. I thought about this somewhat as we were getting ready for the show about why this hiring happened, right? Because frankly, did Lane Kiffin need to bring back Ed Orgeron? No. But yes, him being friends with him and those two knowing each other from going back to 3 days of Pete Carroll, yeah, it helps. It definitely does help. I mean, look, that's why people say when you're getting jobs and whatnot, it's good to network. And Lane Kiffin has done a good job of networking his name and getting, someone like Ed Orgeron, who's a lot older than he is, a lot more experienced, to join his staff. So from that perspective, I get it. But I think there's another reason here why this hiring happened. Now, I'll get to that in a minute. Now, as for the hire, well, actually, yeah, we just get to this first, and we'll get to my actual thoughts on the hire itself, not just the reasons why. So, the main reason why I think this hiring happened, why they decided to bring Edo back, not necessarily has to do with him winning a national title. It's and this being sort of like, okay, we'll extend the olive branch and let you come back, not as the head coach. We're not maybe doing that again, but to let you come back as a member of the staff here, and we'll. I don't know, maybe their plan is to give him like LSU Legends Awards or something like that. I don't know. Certainly that's not the main reason why, nor is the main reason why he's friends with Lane Kiffin. That's a part of it, but that's not the main reason why. The main reason why they brought him back is because they are trying, at least in my opinion, this is not something that is confirmed. The reason why they did this, LSU in general, not just Lane Kiffin, is to course correct, at least in my opinion, from the Brian Kelly era. If you don't remember some of the whole behind-the-scenes stuff, Josh Pate's been very vocal about this now since Brian Kelly's been fired. Brian Kelly, when he first got to LSU, was very, very anti-Louisiana for no reason given. Just very anti-Louisiana, even though he was coaching the big P2 school in Louisiana State University, right? And so, yeah, I think this is a course correction from that. Again, Brian Kelly, when he first got there, completely flushed anything, at least in terms of the coaching staff, related or anything associated with Louisiana, right? For the most part, there were some holdovers because they were key position coaches, but for the marketing department, the recruiting department, anyone who had Louisiana background or ties to the school, see ya, bye. So this, to me, feels like a course correction because Ed Orgeron is a Louisiana native. He is I don't know if he's actually Cajun. I think he is, I believe, but anyway, he is a Louisiana native. He went to LSU. He went to Northwestern State, which is a FCS school in Louisiana. So, yeah, to me, this definitely feels like, at least in my opinion, from a much more I guess like a 30,000 foot perspective, this does seem like a clear course correction from the Brian Kelly era and sort of a demarcation of we are done with that era. We are no longer associating ourselves with Brian Kelly. We are moving on. So that's the reason why. Now, it will be interesting to hear other folks talk about this. Like, for example, Josh Pate. I'm sure he'll talk about this on his Sunday show. I'm assuming he probably agrees with me. This is a clever way of sort of a, I don't know. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it is a full-on course correction. Yeah. I guess another way you can put it, too, is like an amendment, I guess, like a sort of a forgiveness for what Brian Kelly did, if you will. So, yeah, I think that's clearly, yeah, what this was. This is a course correction and an apology, if you will, to the people of Louisiana saying, hey, we messed up. We are actually going to honor and respect our actual state that we reside in, and we're actually going to value Louisiana culture and the people. So with that, we are going to start bringing back people who are associated with Louisiana, and on top of that, we're bringing back a legend, I guess, quasi-legend, and Ed Orgeron. Not just in terms of LSU football, but also as college football, right? I mean, look, I'll be honest with you, I'm glad he's back. He can, finally get more Ed Orgeron quotes, more content from him, more. I'm sure the folks in the LSU social media department probably doing this right now. They're probably really happy he's back. Now, as for the actual hire, okay, like, is this a good move? Not just for the fact that you're course correcting from the Brian Kelly era. I mean, I guess it works. I mean, yeah, sure. The course correcting for Brian Kelly, that's obvious. I think I made that pretty clear that this is the main reason why. Now, again, if that wasn't the reason why they were doing this, or at least that wasn't like the main objective as to why they made this move, you could have just hired anyone, right? You could have hired another defensive line coach. You could have hired someone else who probably, who was just more than qualified. But again, because they were trying to course correct from Brian Kelly, and also he knows who Lane Kiffin is, of course, because like I mentioned, they have a long history going back. Yeah, I get it. Again, another factor too, albeit it's not the main reason, is, of course, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want more Ed Orgeron content? And again, like I said, I'm sure the social media folks there at LSU are happy, over ecstatic having Ed Orgeron back on the staff there. Maybe not as the head coach, but definitely him being on the staff there means you'll get more content from him and certainly more memes and stuff. Now, I will say there is some pushback out there going around on the internet, mainly X, and I understand it. And the main pushback is, oh, okay, so you're hiring the guy who you fired a couple years ago. Now it's real awkward and whatnot. This to me, it's sort of like if Auburn, for example, after they fired Gene Chizik, I think him and Orgeron are probably the two worst coaches to win the national title, though I will say Orgeron is a little better than Chizik, at least in a full sample size. But this is sort of like if Malzahn, during his tenure at Auburn, hired Gene Chizik as the defensive coordinator. Like, this is basically that. So, yes, I agree from the perspective of, yeah, you're rehiring the guy you guys fired and despised and hated, and now you're going back to him. I get that. From that perspective alone, that you fired him for both on the field reasons, because your guys were going the wrong direction, not to mention some other issues off the field, mainly legal stuff. Yeah, it definitely seems kind of odd. You're going back to the well of, going back to a coach that you guys want to despise and forget. Now all of a sudden you're going back to him on your staff. But again, I think if you look at it from the other perspective of, well, because of what Brian Kelly did when he first got there and tried to dissociate anyone associated with or had deep ties with Louisiana out of the LSU football program, yeah, this makes sense to course correct and actually bring in someone who represents Louisiana, right? Like Ed Orgeron is literally Mr. Louisiana, right? Outside of the current governor there, this guy is literally like the king of Louisiana. Not literally the king, but he sort of comes off that way, sort of in a funny way, right? So, yeah, I think this is, again, more or less I'm not really going to say it's a performative rehiring. It's not like a, theater per se, but it is, again, clearly a course correction from what Brian Kelly was trying to do. And, sort of getting LSU back to Louisiana roots. Again, going back to the whole story that I believe Barton Simmons told a couple years ago, or not a couple years ago, many years ago, when he was on Cover 3, Now he's at Vanderbilt on the staff here. But when Barton was on Cover 3, he's told this story before. Buds retold the story that in Louisiana, the people there worship LSU, along with the Saints. Now, as a Bucs fan, we obviously despise the Saints. They're our biggest rival. But from, taking out my bias with the Buccaneers aside, folks in Louisiana, especially when it comes to football, worship LSU and the Saints. And I think, I don't remember the exact quote Bart has used before, but I think it goes sort of the line of, or sort of along the lines of, most of the schools in Louisiana basically either have several different mascots. Either it's a Saints logo, a Tiger logo, or their colors are purple and gold, right? So obviously, yes, those high schools there in like Pop Warner football camps, yes, they obviously worship LSU because, again, they are the flagship school and the state. There's no other competitors there. It's a very rare scenario. Sort of like Maryland, for example. There's no other schools in Maryland that are in major college football. There's some FCS schools, but there's no other schools in Maryland that are up to that stature, at least in the Power 2. And LSU is one of the other exceptions, right? I think like Wisconsin's the other one too, I think. So, yeah, again, this whole Ed Orgeron thing, yes, it's funny to have him back. Yes, it's cool that LSU sort of, kind of bringing Ed back and saying, hey, man, look, we're sorry it ended really bad. And, we'll give you we'll give you flowers, being that you do have a national title. But I do think the main objective here was to course correct from Brian Kelly. Again, it's nothing totally against Brian Kelly as a person, but the fact that he did so much to just flush out anything related to Louisiana, if the rumors and reporting is true from people like Josh Pate and others, then yeah, this makes sense to really go the extra mile to really say we are going to hammer in Louisiana culture at Louisiana State University. Okay, so yeah, nice to have Ed Orgeron back, but make no mistake, the reason why they did this is to course correct from Brian Kelly. Clearly, and I think they've really made that pretty clear by hiring Ed Orgeron back on the staff there. So good for Ed, good for LSU to make up, and good for them to finally, for the first time, ironically, since Ed Orgeron was there, the head coach, to actually embrace Louisiana again. And not doing my Brian Kelly, whatever the heck he was doing there. I don't like doing fake Southern accents and doing some weird, creepy dances and getting it out of the media, which, in general, it's not like a big deal, but, looking back at it, yeah, definitely weird. Moving right along here again, as we are ending the show. We're not like ending the show permanently. We're just ending today's broadcast. Again, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys do that. Make sure to follow us on X, Twitter. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast feed. Again, as a friendly reminder, no live shows next week. We're doing a pre-recorded show, quasi-normal show, and extra pod. We'll do that next week. We'll have it posted and ready to go at some point next week. Okay, moving right along here. Michigan, team projection here. Let me go back to the graphic pulled up here, and we'll go ahead and get started on this last topic of the show. Okay, nothing's happening to you. If you're listening on Spotify, nothing's happening to the audio. Just trying to get the graphic pulled up here. Okay. All right, move this over for you guys. You guys can see it a little bit better. There you go. All right. Michigan, team record projection, 2026. Yes, of course, bring in Kyle Whittingham, new staff there. You move on from the Sharon Moore Bass, both off the field and off the field, or off the field and on the field, of course. Second year under Bryce Underwood, so hopefully you'll see a step up there. You have a whole new staff there. So all of the guys from Utah are now at Michigan, which is probably a good thing, given, again, how things are going last year with the offense. Not very good. I'm sure if you're a fan in Kalamazoo, Michigan, I'm sure you would want to forget that and want to move on to more of a brighter future. Now, as you can tell by the record projection here, a lot of I'm going to say varying outcomes, but definitely a very high variance type team this year. So the best case scenario for Michigan is 10-2. I have listed on here in the graphic. Worst case scenario 6-6. Most reasonable 8-4. We'll go for the first one. We'll go for all of these, starting out the best case first. Particularly when it comes to the schedule. Now, I would have done a graphic for the schedule, but didn't have time to make one. So I'll just read them off to you guys, both on YouTube and on Spotify. So, and I'm sure most of you've also seen the schedule too. So it's not, hopefully you're not foreign to the schedule, but if you are, then listen closely. So going down the schedule here. So first game, in-state G5 school, no problem. Then it gets real in a hurry with OU coming to town week 2. Then you get another G5. Then you get in the conference play with Iowa, at Minnesota, Penn State, rivalry game at home, Indiana at home. That's a key there. At Rutgers, no real problems there. Michigan State, I don't think so. Oregon, that's going to be tough. At Oregon. UCLA at home, that's good. So you don't have to go, to the West Coast back-to-back weeks there. Go ask Penn State how that was, that experience there out in Los Angeles. So then you end the year, of course, with Ohio State. So at the moment on this schedule, I really have probably 4 teams on here. So you have OU, Penn State, Oregon, and Oregon and Ohio State. Those are your toughest games on this schedule. And besides, and outside of those 4 games, you are going to be favored in the majority of your games. Now, I did forget to mention Indiana, so there's really 5 on here, but worst case scenario, you probably split either Penn State or Indiana. So really and truly, there really is probably 4 or 5 games on here that you're not going to be favored in. Outside of that, you're going to be favored in most of these games. So like the Michigan State game, you'll be favored. UCLA, obviously, you'll be favored. Penn State, you'll probably be favored in. Favored in that game. The two G5s will be favored. Iowa, you'll probably be favored. So you do the math there. If you really look at the best case scenario, if home field advantage here is important, and maybe you do see Bryce Underwood step up, and maybe sort of a concern here is the receivers. There's not really, I don't really think your receiver core is really that good. Those guys to step up, if you guys can really just get a top 20-ish offense, much better than last year. 10-2 is not a real possibility here. Again, if your home games against Oklahoma, against Indiana, against Penn State, those really do matter. Then you could look at a scenario here where you could lose to Oregon and Ohio State, being your only 2 losses there, and that's a good year for Michigan. So 10-2, best case scenario for Michigan. Worst case scenario 6-6. Some of this takes into account it's the first year for the staff there, so you have that the first year woes. You also have the potential of this meshing of Bryce Underwood and Jason Beck and the new OC there just not working, which I don't know why it wouldn't, because I think Bryce does fit what they do, which is more of a spread option type thing. Obviously, Bryce is a good runner, of course. So I think most of this really ties to injuries, first year woes, maybe the receiving core. While, yes, not expecting Michigan to really throw the ball a whole lot, obviously, based on, of course, the talent they have there and the offensive style they're going to run. But if the receivers aren't just decently good, then they could be in real trouble here. Again, not to mention, their schedule with those 4 or 5 games, those are really tough games, and they can lose to Oklahoma. They can lose to Iowa. They can lose to Minnesota. So it's not impossible to have this thing really go off the rails if certain things are not in place. Okay. Now, the most reasonable route is 8-4, which is the most reasonable because I think it's the more likely. I don't think 10-2 is out of the realm possibility, of course, because it's the best case scenario, but the percentages here, if you were to give percentages here, I'll probably say most reasonable would be around 60%, and probably best case would be around 10% probably. So less likely than not, you'd go 10-2 on that in this scenario. Again, it's not impossible. It was just, I don't think it's very likely. I do think most reasonable outcome then for Michigan is 8-4. Again, you have to go to Oregon, you have to go to Ohio State. So clearly you'd be dogs in those games, and you'll probably lose those games. Indiana, I think you'd probably lose that game. Penn State, you may win that game. But again, it's not necessarily those games. In particular, it's like Minnesota, for example. If you lose that game, then all bets are off. And that's on the road, too. That's an early road test for them. They do not leave the state of Michigan until October. Just so you guys know that they are at home for the first 4 games of the year. So prepare accordingly if you're a Michigan fan. And I realize that you are not leaving Ann Arbor until October 3rd. So, and really and truly, you don't really have that many road games except for, Minnesota, Rutgers, Oregon, and Ohio State. So it's a very, very home favored schedule. It's not really like a balanced schedule. It's really teetering towards being a home based team this year, which is very, very odd. Not a lot of teams in Big Ten can really say that. So, yeah, again, Michigan, best case 10-2, worst case 6-6. Could have put 5-7 on here, but I don't think so. I don't think they're really I don't think it's that bad. I think there is some disaster proof here with Michigan, and I think the most reasonable is 8-4. So, who knew? Yeah. Oh, that's the who knew reference to Walmart there. Anyway, that's the show. Yeah, that's it for at least today's show. And again, like I mentioned, this was the last time you'll see me live, so you'll see me pre-recorded next week tomorrow. So I'll do the extra pod / normal show tomorrow. Yes, be on the lookout for that next week, either on Tuesday or Thursday. I guess either day there, or it could be Wednesday. Who knows? Or it could be Friday. But yeah, we'll be back full time, full schedule a week after. I think potentially here. I'm just looking at my schedule. Yeah, I think we should be fine. If there's any scheduling issues, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, the next time we'll have another disruption in the schedule will be 4th of July, similar to last year as well. So no real surprise. Now, we'll say this, and I'll probably bring this up. I'll probably bring it up tomorrow too, maybe. But there is real potential here. You could get some CFB 27 video game news there, college football video game news next week. So there's some scuttlebutt, if you will, on the socials about that. Some people are getting really excited about that. So just be on the lookout for that. If anything breaks while I'm, on vacation, I'll find some time to give some initial thoughts, and we'll talk about on the show when we come back. But just keep an eye out for that. There might be some things that are revealed here. I think maybe in the first week of June, maybe. Could be wrong on that. Maybe that's just a rumor I heard on the internet from unreliable sources. There might be a certain someone who is associated with EA that may or may not have posted something on X earlier that confirmed that things are coming soon. So if you know, you know. But anyway, that's it for the show. So again, until technically, you guys will see me next week. We'll be pre-recorded. So until the first week of June, which by the way coincides with first full week of hurricane season. So plan accordingly, kids. Until then, the first week of June. Take care. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Unofficial start of summer, though, for most of us here in Florida. Summer started back in late April. But anyway, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy the whole week next week. Again, we'll have a pre-recorded show. So, we'll be live. So until next time you see me live.